and we're gonna be your host at this podcast.
Yay! And here we come Audrey as our interviewee.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Audrey, and today I will be this podcast delightful interviewee, and I will be answering some questions that these hosts will provide.
So Audrey, do you know what we're gonna talk about in this podcast?
No, actually, but I'm really curious as to what we will be discussing.
So, we're gonna talk about TKA.
Yay!
The biggest comeback in this 2025.
I would really call it a comeback.
Yeah. So basically TKA stands for Tes Kemampuan Akademik, which means academic ability. It is a part of Indonesia's national university entrance exam, UTBK computer-based written examination.
The TKA is designed to measure students' mastery of academic subjects related to the major they plan to study in university, such as mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology for science major, or economic, sociology, geography, and history for social science major.
I see.
So Audrey, let's start with something important. How well do you think the TKA measures non-cognitive skills such as creativity, collaborations, or perseverance?
In terms of creativity or collaboration, I would say that TKA measures this very, very poorly. Because let's all take a look at the practice books for TKA. Now, if we take a look at those books and see what materials there are, it's just piles of information upon information that feels like they're just trying to cram information into these students' brains, that it doesn't really invite any use of creativity or collaboration. And because of that, I feel like there's little to no creativity and collaboration that's measured in these TKA tests.
That makes sense. But do you think that the test should include elements that access emotional intelligence or real-world problem solving?
Oh, definitely. In terms of real-world problem solving, well, the students that we're searching for in real-world or real problem scenarios, we're trying to search for students that are, of course, able to crack the code. They're able to use their brain, use their intelligence to solve problems. And, oh yes, emotional intelligence. That is very much a fundamental aspect here. Because let's take a look at Indonesia. I feel like it's safe to say that there are psychopaths out there that are willing to take the role of the government. There are people who lack any empathy or sympathy to connect to their rakyat, to their people. That feels like sometimes they only care about themselves, you know? And this is why I feel like both emotional intelligence and the capabilities for these students to be dependent in using their brain, not just depending on AI or just memorizing information. These aspects are really important to be measured in TKA.
Okay, so talking about emotional intelligence, how about the psychological impact? What effect does TKA have on students' motivations and mental health?
Well, I feel like that is a very easy, very simple question to answer, because this past month, if we take a single look at any 12th grader, we could see that their expressions, they're all panicked, they're all stressed, they're all really stiff because they know by the end of this month they have to do this test called TKA. And it's just flooding their minds, they're super stressed. Oh my god, I have TKA by the end of this month. And I feel like it just leaves an overall negative impact on these students.
So, do you think that the pressure might reduce their interest in learning itself?
Very much, because when you're in a position of stress, when you're really anxious and all that you could feel is fear, I don't think the first thing you feel is, oh, I'm interested in studying this, oh, I'm curious about this lesson. No, you're going to be thinking like this: what if I fail by the end of this month? What if I won't be able to do the test? There won't be any curiosity or interest in learning anymore. No, they only have fear of failure in their heads. And I feel like because of this, TKA fails the very basics of education.
Okay, so move on to another topic. How transparent do you think the scoring and evaluations process of TKA is?
I would feel like it's very not transparent, considering that a lot of teachers are actually really confused, or at least a little misguided about what materials they should be presenting, you know. Yes, I think that's all I have to say, because this is a relatively new program. I can't really guarantee much information, but I'm only judging these on how I perceive some of the teachers lately.
I'm kind of curious, so do you mean that the result might not clearly represent what students are truly capable of?
Definitely. because as I brought up before, this doesn't really bring up their emotional intelligence or their creativity and their full potential in other subjects. Because let's not forget, this test is only measuring their capability to memorize, not their capability to think.
In your opinion, does TKA encourage genuine learning or just exam-oriented preparation?
It's just an exam. It doesn't invite you to use your brain, it doesn't invite you to use your creativity, and I feel like I can't emphasize that enough.
So they're learning how to beat the test, not necessarily like mastering the subject.
Yes, they're only learning, to do this test, I need to do this. They're not thinking, they're not trying to understand the lessons, They're only memorizing. They're only cramming information into their brain. But never once did they invite their brain to actually activate. And I feel like that is the core problem of this entire TKA testing.
Okay. But how about the preparations for TKA affect student daily routines and mental well-being?
Their schedules are littered with TKA. Sometimes their entire week is just TKA, and I feel like that's completely unnecessary. School should be a place where you should reach your full potential, not where you should stress out or only think about this singular thing that in the end, it doesn't really add to your certificate.
But do you think that the pressure can cause like a burnout?
Very much. I don't think that needs to be expanded on because it's undeniable that these students are suffering from stress that they can't even handle, and they must be very prone to burnout. So, yes.
And finally, how do students perceive the fairness and usefulness of TKA?
In terms of fairness, that is extremely debatable, because judging on yesterday's TKA, we could literally see that some students are doing live streams while working on the TKA. They could just very well be getting answers from those live streams that I don't think is completely fair anymore. And in terms of, what was that aside from fairness? Sorry, could you repeat your question?
Wait. The fairness and usefulness of TKA.
Usefulness? In terms of usefulness? I don't think it's that useful at all because it doesn't actually add anything into their certificate, correct? It just verifies their scores. In which, I feel like the government, if they really want to verify our scores to make sure that our scores are valid, that we're not cheating, that should be a problem of the students. They shouldn't just make another test for it because I feel like students could very much cheat in that test again. They're not changing anything. If we really want to make a change, you need to change these students' mindset to not cheat not just the students actually, the schools. For the schools to not alter their scores. So yes, I don't think this TKA thing is very much useful at all, and there are other alternatives to fix the problem of valid scores.
Okay, let's move on to another topic. How does the emphasis of TKA influence teaching practice in schools?
I feel like with the coming of TKA, a lot of teachers are going to try to match their curriculums so that their students, they want to guide their students, of course, to get the best score they can for TKA. But at the same time, we don't know what questions are coming out in TKA, correct? We're basically cramming 2.5 years of education into a singular test and only giving them 6 months. Well, at least for this, the current 12th graders, they only have 6 months to prepare for.
Okay, Audrey, it's been great hearing your point of view about how TKA affects students.
Of course, I would also like to thank the both of you as hosts, and it's such a pleasure answering your questions. It really got me thinking about the flaws of TKA too, So yes, I'd have to thank you too, and of course, the viewers for listening to our podcast.
Now we just ensure how flawed this TKA test. Hopefully, this talk of ours will be able to enlighten many more out there. Once again, thank you so much.
Exactly. Thank you everyone for listening and see you in the next discussion.
I'm Kalista.
I'm Ifada.
And we're leaving as your host today. Bye-bye.